Okay, now I just want to go a little bit more into relationship and the relationship that you have with your list. And well, first of all, one of the things you really have to focus on is speaking to your list in a natural way, in a conversational way. The copy that you use for your lists, the stuff you send out to your lists, it should be, for most people, in most businesses, in most markets, this is what works the best. It's like you're emailing your friends. And it should be as conversational as when you send to your friends. It should read like you speak. That's what you're after. The thing you have to avoid is the corporate voice, using the royal we, and just trying to sound big and important. A lot of people get messed up with this. They use that corporate voice or that airline speak, with the airlines attendants when they want you to turn off your electronic devices, and they start using all this double speak and stuff. I love when I get on a plane listening to the airline attendants. The threat condition has been raised. Due to increased security, the threat condition has been raised to yellow. It's like, what the hell does that mean? It's like, why don't you just say, hey, we raised the we raised the security whatever to yellow. I mean, it's due to increased security, you must have your bags with you at all times. What does due to increased security mean? Okay? So you can't have that kind of speak. You can't have the corporate speak. Like when you're looking at corporate reports, it's all like super, refined, whatever. Boring. It's boring. You can't be boring. That's the thing. You got to have that relationship. You got to talk to the people on your list like they're people, because they are. You have to connect with them like people. So one of the great things you can do is create what we call an avatar. And this is actually the first person I ever heard use this term in this fashion was Eben Pagan. So I don't know if he invented it, but as far as I'm concerned, he did invent it. But I've basically been using this concept forever. And the avatar, that's sort of like the pretend person you're speaking to. So I know, like when I was publishing about the stock market, I had someone in my mind that I was publishing to. In fact, one thing you can do is go look through a bunch of magazines and find like a picture that for you personifies the typical person on your list. Or you might have multiple avatars. So, back then, if I was publishing to traders, a lot of would-be, wannabe traders are actually doctors and dentists. A huge number of doctors and dentists want to be stock market traders. So one of my avatar was this guy who was a dentist who, maybe he was mid-40s. He'd been a dentist for a while and really didn't care for being a dentist anymore. He wanted to be a trader. So I had that vision in my head of that person that I was publishing to. So no matter what you're in, if you're publishing about carving wooden dolls, if you're publishing about growing tomatoes or about playing guitar or whatever, come up with at least one avatar or multiple avatars. We'll talk about this more. But you basically want to be publishing to one person so that, obviously your list is going out to a lot of people, but you're writing to that one person. And that will help you go a long way towards creating that relationship. Avoid that corporate speak. The corporate speak is death on the internet. It's death, I think, in any type of advertising, but especially on the internet. Basically, they're getting your email on their inbox, in their inbox on their computer. So if you think about how you feel, most people feel very that their computer is a very private place. Like, think about, say, a stranger just having access to your email inbox. Most people are not comfortable with that. They think of their computer as a very private space. In fact, there's research, it's fascinating research, that when people hold a tool in their hand, that tool becomes, in their psyche, in their brain, an extension of themselves. So if you were knock a hammer out of someone's hand, they would take that very personally because they view that as an extension of themselves. In fact, we often have this road rage where people get crazy behind the wheels of their cars and they start yelling at each other. It's because they have that tool, they got that steering wheel. And then that car becomes an extension of their body. That's why people get so personal about stuff when they're driving. Okay? It's the same way when they have their hands on that keyboard, that computer becomes an extension of their body. So a computer is a very personal space. And I think the email inbox is even more personal than the whole computer. So you're basically, when you've got that email address, you've got permission to inject you, your personality, your thoughts, your feelings into their very private personal space. And you have to treat it like that. You have to treat it with respect. And so you avoid that corporate speak. I think you avoid lying to people. I see these subject lines. This is one that kills me. And I'm sorry if I'm hardcore about stuff, folks, but I'm just telling you what's worked for me and what has made me a ton of money. And I'll see a subject line come from someone, and here's the this is what the subject line will say. It'll say, private. It'll be in parens, or maybe it's in brackets, or maybe it's not. Maybe it just says private. And the implication is that it's a private email. But they're sending it out to their entire list. I think, and I'll tell you what, some of my friends have sent this, so I hope my friends don't see this email, because I think it's a lie. I think it's a lie when you send that email that says it's private when it's not. And if you lie to someone once, they're not going to believe you when you go forward into the future. So, if you send a subject line that says private, and it might get a few more opens, people open that email a little bit more because they think it's private, but when they realize it's not private, well, you've just burned that relationship. And you can't do that. You can't do it. So we'll get into a lot more of this, but this is some of the subtleties of, it's just, be a nice person and treat people the way you would want to be treated, and treat the people on your list like they're your friends. I know a lot of people don't do this. A lot of people would completely disagree with me. But I'm just talking about the long-term ecology of your list, of the relationship. I don't want to sound all hippie groovy and stuff, but I think a lot about the ecology in treating the people on your list well. Now, there's going to be some lunatics on your list, and they might not like the way you're treating them or whatever, but if you treat them like gold, and they will be like gold. And so really, we've been going on a while here. It is about that relationship you have with the list. And it's not about the size of the list. And really, that relationship's a lot about how you treat them and the value that you deliver to that list. Now, one other thing I want you to remember, and this is a weird one for a lot of people, is that as soon as you start publishing, you basically become like a celebrity. The people on your list will automatically give you some amount of celebrity or guru or rock star status. I know it's weird, but that's the way it is. And if you think about it, you think about like an author. Most people view an author as like, with some status, like if you think about like if you got to meet Stephen King or some famous author, it'd be almost like meeting a movie star, right? That's the way people view authors and book authors. The reality is to publish a book, if you had a few $1,000s, anyone can publish, and a couple, like 3 or 4 days to sit there at Microsoft Word and knock out a long text document, or you could pay like a ghostwriter, $1,000 and another publisher a few thousand. You could be a book author like next week. It's really not that big a deal. As soon as you got that book, people think you're a celebrity, right? It's the same way with email. As soon as you start publishing, people will see you as a rock star, or as a celebrity, or as a guru, and that is really, really important in influencing people's actions. When people think you're that guru or an expert, they instantly, you have more credibility and you have more influence with them. So that's something you have to remember. Now, part of another piece of that is that people love, it's like they're instantly curious about celebrities. People want to know what's going on with celebrities. They want to know what they do, what they're eating, what they're doing all day, what they do for fun, how they get their work done. Celebrities are endlessly interesting to us. And remember, if you're publishing, you are that celebrity. So one of the ways that you build up your relationship with the people on your list is what we call revelation of self, which means you reveal some of the details about your life. And then now you're letting people into your life, and that's one way to create a strong bond. Some of this I do just naturally because I'm sort of an open book. There's not a lot of mysteries about me, but I'll talk about like some of my passions. Like I'm passionate about mountain biking. I've been a mountain biker for a long time, and I go out in the trails and tear it up. And I play guitar. I'm actually just learning to play guitar. So I'll talk about playing guitar. I'll talk about going skiing. I'll talk about living. I live out in the mountains in Colorado. A little different. A lot of my, the other people in the market, they might live in California or somewhere in the East Coast. Not a lot of people live out in the mountains. When I don't live in Denver either, I live way out in the mountains. And so, I'll talk about living in the mountains. I'll talk about having deer in my front yard. I'll talk about going skiing, mountain biking. I'll talk about some of my travels. I'll talk about my family. And that type, it's not like I'm sending the Walker yearly report like you get at Christmas time or something like that. But I'll just drop in little pieces here and there, and that helps people really connect with you and feel, just feel that relationship with you. And that gives you a lot more influence with them.